tapping into home security cameras, then posting them live. Your private moments, now public.
From ABC News, this is ABC World News Tonight.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Tom Yamas, and we begin tonight with the comments by the president causing confusion around the world. President Trump, before a packed crowd last night, kicking off his 2020 campaign with a rally in Melbourne, Florida, alluding to problems in Sweden in connection with a list of cities that have experienced terrorism. But there have been no such incidents in Sweden. And tonight, his remarks sparking a firestorm of questions, condemnations, even humorous responses, with the Swedish embassy in Washington reaching out to the State Department for clarification. ABC's Mary Bruce is in Florida with the president, starting us off tonight.
Tonight, the White House forced to explain this head-scratching comment from the president, speaking Saturday about the link between terrorism and refugees.
You look at what's happening in Germany. You look at what's happening last night in Sweden. Sweden. Who would believe this?
What couldn't be believed, what the president was talking about. Incident in Sweden, what incident?
Sweden. They took in large numbers. They're having problems like they never thought possible. You look at what's happening in Brussels. You look at what's happening all over the world.
Even the Swedish government baffled, reaching out to the State Department for clarification. The former Swedish prime minister tweeting, "Sweden terror attack. What has he been smoking?" Questions abound. Today, the White House explaining the president was talking about rising crime and recent incidents in general, and not referring to a specific incident, adding that the president was referencing a news report he had seen the night before. The president's comments about Sweden came just 30 minutes after he railed against a familiar target.
The dishonest media, which has published one false story after another, I will never, ever let them get away with it. I will do whatever I can that they don't get away with it.
But just Thursday, he falsely boasted about the size of his electoral college win.
I guess it was the biggest electoral college win since Ronald Reagan.
That's simply not true. And when confronted about it,
well, I don't know. I was given that information. I've seen that information around.
The president holding a campaign rally Saturday to take his message directly to his supporters without what he calls the filter of the press.
We are here today to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You guys give Donald Trump a hard time. You dissect what he said. He's not a politician. He doesn't have the perfect thing to say. But we love the fact that he goes straight to us, and we can decipher it.
As Trump declares the media the enemy of the American people, even Republican lawmakers are sounding the alarm.
In consolidation of power, when you look at history, the first thing that dictators do is shut down the press.
And his own defense secretary says the media is not the enemy.
I've had some rather contentious times with the press, but no, the press, as far as I'm concerned, are a constituency that we deal with, and I don't have any issues with the press myself.
The president is facing real challenges, concerns about his travel ban now on hold, questions about his administration's possible ties to Russia, and he is still lacking a national security advisor. In Florida today, the president meeting with at least 4 possible replacements after Michael Flynn was forced to resign. That announcement expected to be coming soon.
And Mary joins us from Palm Beach, Florida. Mary, you just showed us who interviewed today to be the national security advisor. Are these the final 4 and 2 other big-name candidates no longer in the mix?
Yeah, Tom, 2 possible contenders have already taken themselves out of the running, David Petraeus and Robert Harward. Now, the president did meet with those 4 others today, and now we're learning there could be even more contenders being considered in the coming days. Tom?
Mary Bruce traveling with the president. Mary, thank you. Turning now to the deadly weather in the west, the death toll from that fierce storm rising, with rain-drenched Northern California bracing for a new round of heavy rain. As massive cleanup efforts continue, including the removal of that San Bernardino fire engine from a sinkhole. That moment, take a look. We showed you here last night, the fire truck falling. ABC's Marcy Gonzalez is in LA for us now with the latest.
Tonight, parts of California bracing for a second round of dangerous rain. In Maxwell, voluntary evacuation orders underway. That community already underwater. This elementary school flooded with torrential downpours expected overnight.
I have a suitcase packed. This is our home. I mean, to leave here, it's what am I going to do?
Some families near Fresno preparing to leave, concerned a levee nearby could break. Crews there now rushing to patch a dozen holes in it before the storm moves in. Tonight, a close eye on the compromised Orville Dam. The water levels receding, now giving a better view of the damage. But officials say even with more rain in the forecast, they believe the dam will hold. Friday's storm now blamed for at least 5 deaths in Southern California, where they are now cleaning up from some extreme damage. Crews repairing Interstate 15 after it crumbled, taking this fire truck with it minutes after the crew escaped. So many capping off the weekend, clearing away trees brought down by high winds, and finally moving vehicles that were trapped in mud.
We had to dig out the cars and then literally pull them out.
And tonight, efforts to fix the road and the sewage pipe beneath after 2 cars were swallowed by this massive sinkhole.
And there is clearly still a lot of work left to do here at that sinkhole. And though Southern California won't get the worst of this next storm, there is more rain in the forecast these repair crews will have to work through. Tom?
And you can see the magnitude of that sinkhole behind you. All right, Marcy, thank you. Let's turn now to ABC senior meteorologist Rob Marciano joining us now from an unseasonably warm New York City. Rob, no complaints here, but a much different story on the West Coast.
That's right. No heavy coat required here, but a rain jacket, certainly the garment of choice out west. Another storm is lined up for San Francisco. Take a look at it, and we expect the rains to increase overnight and through tomorrow. They just issued a high wind warning for San Francisco tomorrow afternoon through tomorrow night. That's when the heaviest rains and the strongest winds will come in. And already saturated ground, we're looking for problems there because over 5 inches could fall. That's going to push some infrastructure, especially in the hills, to their limits. Meanwhile, the storm that went through Southern California yesterday is now in the plains, and severe weather is popping across north and central Texas. I think Fort Worth and Dallas, you'll see some thunderstorms tonight. And we're watching for the potential of tornadoes to your west. Meanwhile, look at these numbers. Another record-breaking day today. Temperatures 15 to 25 degrees above normal, and this trend will continue, it looks like, Tom, right through the end of this week. Tom?
All right, we'll take it. Rob, thank you. Now to the Sunday morning shattered when a small plane crashed down into a crowded residential area. That falling plane slamming into cars below, trapping the pilot in the wreckage. ABC's Ron Claiborne tonight reporting from the scene in Bayonne, New Jersey.
There's down wires. There appears to be a plane and a car.
It was a harrowingly close call. The small single-engine plane upside down in the middle of a residential street just a few feet away from homes.
Going over to the plane crash.
I heard this like crazy sound, ran down, looked outside, and I seen this white flash go by.
Chunks of twisted metal, even the pilot seat left scattered. More debris landing in a tree.
I just stand on my porch just looking at it. I was like, wow.
The pilot may have been trying to land in the street, but his plane clipped a power line. The biggest piece of the plane and the pilot ended up about 100 yards down this street. But come look at this. At this gas station just up the road, an enormous piece of the wing ended up just about 5-10 feet away from a gas pump. 4 parked cars crushed. The 56-year-old pilot pulled from the mangled remnants of his plane and taken to a nearby hospital. Tonight, that pilot is hospitalized in stable condition, but said to be alert. But Tom, just looking at that wreckage of that plane, it is amazing that he is even alive. Tom?
Ron Claiborne for us tonight. Ron, thank you. Now to the new headline in a double murder case gripping the Midwest. 2 teenage girls killed out on a hike northwest of Indianapolis. Tonight, state police say a mystery man seen nearby is now their main suspect. Here's ABC's Marascal Ocampo.
Tonight, police on the hunt for that man, now suspected in the murders of 13-year-old Abby Williams and 14-year-old Liberty German. The teens' deaths leaving the community shaken and scared. It all started Monday, the girls going for a hike dropped off by a relative at this trail in Delphi, Indiana. About an hour later, Liberty Snapchats this photo of Abby walking across a bridge. Then silence, neither appearing at 3 p.m. when they were to be picked up. Their bodies found the following day, less than a mile from the trail. Their families devastated by the shocking discovery.
Our minds at this stage are stirred in the deepest sorrow one can imagine.
Then Wednesday, investigators releasing those photos, saying the suspect appears to be a white male wearing blue jeans, a blue coat, and a hoodie, seen walking on the trail around the time the girls went missing. Tonight, saying he is suspected of having participated in the murders.
He's going to have some history with this trail and with the surrounding area, because it's not something that someone probably traveled from a distance away. They knew the trail was there. They just happened to be on it that day.
Tom, investigators remaining tight-lipped tonight, not saying how the girls were killed. Their funerals were held today. Tom?
Mara, thank you. We want to head overseas now, and the dramatic moments captured on airport surveillance video. What appears to be the assassination by poisoning of the brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. ABC's Matt Gutman has the story.
All it took was 2.3 seconds to deliver death. Tonight, grainy airport security video obtained by a Japanese TV station purportedly showing a single swift move in which one of two female assassins sneaks up on Kim Jong-nam from behind and covered his face with a cloth laced with a liquid. It was poison. Moments later, this image showing Kim Jong-nam desperately seeking help from airport security. He died minutes later on the way to the hospital.
There's every indication, based on North Korea's history, that this was a targeted kill.
Police say these two women are the killers, one of them in the now infamous LOL shirt. Police say CCTV video shows her tracking Kim Jong-nam through the Kuala Lumpur airport. Both now under arrest. Investigators say the other woman claims she thought this was part of a comedy show prank. Authorities have conducted 2 autopsies on the man with the Playboy reputation. ABC News has learned he enjoyed frequenting places like this Singapore girls' bar, but North Korea has rejected the autopsies. There's a manhunt tonight for 4 North Korean suspects in Malaysia. Analysts tell us this has all the hallmarks of a North Korean purge. Remember, Tom, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un is accused of killing off his own uncle and hundreds of government officials just in the past couple of years. Tom.
The developments in this case tend to get stranger and stranger. All right, Matt, thank you. To Iraq now, in the new wave of military attacks to retake western Mosul from ISIS. U.S.-backed coalition airstrikes spearheading that Iraqi government offensive, with hundreds of Iraqi armored vehicles zeroing in on ISIS positions. It's the second phase of the campaign to take back that city. Next tonight, the groundbreaking SpaceX launch at Kennedy Space Center. CEO Elon Musk tweeting this photo of the rocket carrying supplies to the International Space Station. That launch making history. Here's ABC's David Curley.
1. Ignition and liftoff.
The flames and cloud of smoke from SpaceX's Falcon 9 liftoff brought a legendary launch pad back to life at Florida's Kennedy Space Center. A success for billionaire SpaceX CEO Elon Musk, who just last year suffered a second setback when one of his rockets exploded. This morning's launch from NASA's historic Launch Pad 39A, where Neil Armstrong bid the Earth farewell before his trip to the moon nearly 5 decades ago.
Liftoff on Apollo 11.
The pad has been deserted since 2011 after NASA launched its last shuttle mission. Tonight, the space agency is calling this morning's launch a turning point.
Part of me feels exalted that the pad's coming back into use.
And again, SpaceX was able to land the rocket's reusable first stage.
Landing legs have deployed.
The Dragon capsule and its payload of more than 5,000 pounds of scientific experiments, research equipment, and supplies will dock with the International Space Station on Tuesday. David Curley, ABC News.
We thank David for that report, and there's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday. You've seen the incredible video, fire ripping through that mansion in Virginia. Tonight, why firefighters say they had a hard time putting it out. And do you have a security camera at your home? If so, hackers could see what it records, the simple fix to protect your privacy. And a World War II vet makes an emotional return to the skies, and he's up to his old aerial tricks. We'll take you inside the cockpit coming up.
This is ABC World News Tonight, brought to you by Edward Jones.
I know you're my financial advisor, but are you going to bring up that stock again?
Well, you need to think about selling some of it.
My dad gave me those shares, you know? He ran that company.
I get it. But you know, I think you own too much. Got to manage your risk.
You got to switch to decaf.